Welcome to Life, Love and the Pursuit of Real Estate. My name is Michael Biviano and I've got my very good friend here, James Hatzolos, real estate guru extraordinaire here in Victoria. The last video that we did went extremely well and because of my very distinct lack of organisational skills, it's taken us a while
just a bit
to get back.
Yeah.
So I apologise for that, James.
That's all right.
And this first interview, there's going to be at least two today, but this first interview is just going to be a general market overview and just a little bit about what James has done. And the other one is going to be intrinsically for real estate principles in relation to the principle of running a business. So James, again, welcome. Thanks very much, buddy.
Great to see you. Thank you.
You look all refreshed from your holiday.
I am.
Good on you.
And relaxed.
So let's talk about the, just for a couple of moments, you've now started the new business. How long's the new business been going for?
It'll be 12 months now, end of April.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 months.
Congratulations. A good year, as they say in the town.
Thank you.
That's good. Well done. And you've got a team of how many people now?
Well, the whole team is about 30 odd salespeople, but the Manningham division is 5 guys at the moment,
right,
which we're building slowly.
That's a good number for straight up.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't straight up. I mean, 3 were straight up, but I'm taking my time in building the team. Right. Look, I could have easily had 10 if I wanted to be honest with you, but I don't want to put, for me, this isn't a race. You know, I don't want to put every Tom, Dick and Harry on board. It's about making sure that you get the right people who are value aligned and subscribe to the same vision. And that takes time.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Well, what we might do is we might talk about the market a bit. So you're now located in Manningham. What's your address?
No, I'm based at the moment in Burke Road Q.
Oh, right, okay. Yes.
And we're planning on opening up in Manningham very soon.
Have you got a location sorted yet?
I can't talk about that.
Okay. All right. So I'll ask you some general market questions then, and then because I've got some opinions on the Melbourne market. How do you think the general Melbourne market is now that you're back in play for 12 months, right? And you've had going on what I've noticed on your Instagram and all your media, digital media, you guys have significantly started turning over some real estate.
We have.
And I've got to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Because my belief has always been, if you don't get momentum in the first 6 months, it's very hard to get momentum. Yeah. And I think you've certainly done that.
Yeah, thank you.
Great work. Tell me where do you think the Melbourne market will be at the end of this year in relation to where it is right now?
Look, there's no doubt about it that the market has softened. I mean, there's a lot of things happening both locally and internationally that I believe are having an impact on that.
Right. What are they?
Look, well, first up, I don't think this Royal Commission is helping us, to be honest with you.
I think talk about that later.
Yeah, I think that's having an impact. I think with the Chinese market, if you like, tightening up in terms of what they can and can't do in terms of buying restrictions, that's had an impact right across Melbourne. In particular, the markets we play in, which is Boroondara and Manningham and a little bit in Carlton, but more so Manningham and Boroondara. And I think the way APRA are tightening up lending policy, I think that's also having an impact.
I think the APRA situation is something that people are starting to become more aware of. I've done an interview with Travis Fulton, who used to be the head of business banking at NAB and also at Macquarie recently, and him and I have become quite good mates. And it's interesting in the discussions that we had and the interviews that we did, I don't know if you've seen them, but we talk about how the guy behind the door actually has a large amount of control in relation to the buyers that are buying off us. So, and lending policies got stiffer. You know, the banks are now looking for, they're looking to abide by APRA because they're all sort of scared of it. The Royal Commission will be an interesting thing to see what the full outcome of all that is, especially with all this financial advice that's been given incorrectly, so to speak. So on that, and as I said, we can cover that a bit later, but the market itself, if you think the market's softened, then where do you really think, in answer to my question properly then, do you think the market is going to continue softening till the end of the year? And does that mean the prices will drop off? Does that mean supply will drop? What does that mean to people listening to this right now?
Look, I think certainly with the markets, I think the market will first and foremost will continue to sort of soften to a point. I can't see it crashing, but then again, I'm not an economist, and I guess I don't have a crystal ball either as to what's going to happen over the next 6 or 8, 9 months, whatever it is. But I do believe the market will remain the way it is going forward over the next 6 months. The impact that's having on stock levels, stock has tightened up, which I guess if you look at it in terms of economic terms, demand and supply, technically speaking, when there's less supply, that should automatically increase demand. But I think what's happened globally I think consumers are probably concerned about that. So they're not buying as aggressively as they were before. So it's come off the boil slightly. Buyers are coming to properties, and buyers are still buying, but they're buying more cautiously. They're not throwing money at properties the way they were 12 months, 18 months ago.
Okay, so number of people at auctions and open inspections, where are they compared to when you first started a year ago?
Oh, it's come right back. I mean,
Okay,
for example, yeah.
So 50%?
In some cases, yeah. In some cases, yeah. I mean, I was used to seeing campaigns where I was averaging 40 to 60 groups coming through a campaign over 4 weeks.
Yep.
Now they're down to 35 and 45 groups.
Right.
That's a significant hit. Now, there are going to be homes that will have your 60s and 80s because they're just landmark properties that are very unique. But park those to the side, on average, numbers have come back significantly coming through opens.
Right. Well, that creates a whole range of different circumstances then, because you've got more follow-up, more work.
Yeah.
You know, your negotiations are going to be a bit harder.
Yeah.
Your vendors might not be necessarily in line with the market. There's a whole range of
Absolutely.
laborious aspects that come into that.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Well, I think that together with, I think now going into a tougher market, what I love about tougher markets, let's call it that, is it gets rid of all the C and D players. The A and B players will always survive. Yeah. And I say to my clients openly, the last 5 years, we know a lot of agents who've been in the game the last 5 years, who've gotten into the game the last 5 years, have had it pretty easy. I'm not saying they haven't worked hard, but it's been a fairly easier market to work in. Okay. Now is when experience comes in. You know, when you're flying that plane and turbulence hits, you want to make sure your pilot knows how to fly that plane to land it safely. Yeah. I love using analogies, I'll get used to it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. All right, so then on that score then, as far as it goes, we've, you know, looking at some stats, I mentioned to you before we did this interview that, you know, franchises generally have come off the boil and more boutique agents like yourselves are sort of coming back into play now. So, and I think it's that personalised service and the experience that people want. The Melbourne market as such though has had, we're in play to get still roughly 400 people a day into Melbourne. Right? So that's a lot. Sure. If that's the case, that equates to about 145, 146,000 people per year moving into our state. Yeah. So therefore, one of the things that's going to drive the market in certain areas is going to be population growth. Sure. Right? And then employment opportunities, available housing, etc., etc. Okay. So in relation to your business and how you cover that market and that inflow of people, how many new buyers do you find are coming into the marketplace without a house to sell?
Oh, probably 30%.
Okay, all right. Is that more than it was a year ago?
No, pretty much the same.
So
30 to 40, yeah, 30 to 40%.
Because I think what will happen is you're going to see a change to that.
Yeah.
I think that's going to grow. Yeah. Because you're going to get more buyers with nothing to sell. Because if this population growth still keeps coming in, which is anticipated, we're going to have a run of another 3 to 5 years at this growth rate or more. If that's the case, then the areas that you work in and specialise in presently or currently, you're going to get more buyers without something to list. Yeah. So therefore that will create another range of issues.
Well, mind you though, I mean the buyers, they may not have a house to list because they may have already sold it. I think people today are more focused around wealth creation. So if they can hang on to their asset, they'd rather hang on to it. Right. And mind you, this is going to sound very strange. I mean, to say this as a real estate agent, but I actually encourage buyers, you know, to think about, you know, their situation. So whenever we get called into an appraisal, I actually ask the question, you know, have you ever thought about keeping your property? So I go the complete opposite way. Okay. Where agents are just chasing the listing, I'll try to find out why they're selling. Are they about wealth creation? I think the minute you give people advice about how to build wealth and actually advise them, can you actually keep the property? The level of respect just goes to a whole new level. Yes.
Well, what you're doing is you're creating a consciousness then when you're talking to people about wealth creation. Sure. All right. Okay. So then on that score, and I'll finish this interview up just by this last question. When you're looking at the Melbourne market overall, do you go into the demographic breakup? Do you look at the different nationalities that you are dealing with on a monthly basis and go, you know, just like on a dashboard? No. Do you do a dashboard? No. You don't. Okay. So you don't do a weekly or a monthly dashboard? No. All right, okay. We can certainly talk about that more, and I'd certainly advise that you start looking at doing that. Sure. So, but also from the point of view of the demographic breakup, because if we're going to get still an influx of people, right, you're going to have to be conscious that your office caters for those different nationalities that are coming in.
Sure. We do talk about though the I guess the Asian influence coming into our marketplace. We do talk about that, but not to to a granular level. We just talk about how the Chinese are coming in particular and buying particular pockets.
What about Indians? And
Getting a few Indians now, but I wouldn't say a truckload of them, but I do believe they are going to be coming through next.
Yep.
But not as many Indians at the moment. Right. More Chinese still, in Burundanga and Manningham in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. All right, so therefore, your prediction is that you think towards the end of the year that it's probably going to stay roughly the same, give or take. You think stock levels are going to be light on, right? The stock levels being light on create a whole range of other issues, especially if our population growth remains. Because then what happens is the RBA this morning, there was an announcement that basically said that they think that there's going to be a real status quo in relation to the interest rates due to employment and a whole range of other factors, right? If that's the case, we may very well, and this is contrary to what a lot of people are saying, I've got a funny suspicion that we may end up seeing a price increase in the third and fourth quarter of this year due to the fact population's still growing and the RBA is going to keep the rates the same.
Yeah.
Do you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
We might see a peg up, you know.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's possible.
Yeah. On that score, guys, I'm going to end that score. Thanks for that, James. We're going to start the second interview soon. Thanks very much for listening. God bless you. Look after yourself.